Okay, cool. So, this is a casual video explaining Nulgath and why he was effed over. So, Nulgath is the Archfiend, and as you know, he's taken on many forms. The name of the artist who is behind all the Nulgath art, or was originally, is named Miltonius. Each of his previous forms were simply larval stages, hence the Nulgath larvae, and the current iteration we know of today is, of course, the Nulgath we know. So, one thing to note is that the wiki states that Nulgath has no master, but he does actually. I forget his name, but just know that he exists. Oversoul, the world of it, and the game were created through the events of the Dage, the Evil versus Nulgath War, and one of Adventure Quest World's greatest events. In the war, originally, Nulgath does win, but the cutscene says otherwise, and I'm assuming that was for the purpose of Oversoul. Throughout the story, Nulgath, gets in contact with Dirtlicker, who states that, the dimensional planes of lore and Oversoul are in contact, so, Nulgath can come back to the mortal realm of lore, but nothing happens with that. There is a Shadow Blade War, I forget what it's called, but it basically has to deal with the Queen of Monsters saga, and just know that Nulgath, Gravelin, and Dage joined forces to fight this dude. I don't really remember what happened, but it's not important. When the players end up in the afterlife after being killed by Dracoth, Nulgath appears before them and agrees to get them out of the afterlife in exchange that they take out death upon signing a piece of paper. So, why am I saying all these things? Well, that's pretty much the only time that Nulgath is mentioned throughout the Adventure Quest World story. So, what do I mean he got effed over? Well, if you take a look at when Nulgath was in the story and Dage was in the story, and this doesn't just have to be the main story, it can be like all of the side stories that are created, throughout the game. Dage is in a lot of them. Nulgath really isn't. Granted that Dage the Evil is like really good friends with Artix and the entire Artix Entertainment staff and has been there for a while. Makes sense why he would be there, and he's still the only hardcore kind of faction guy that remains, while other people work on Nulgath Nation staff, given that Miltonius was kicked off the Artix Entertainment staff for posting NSFW work using Artix Entertainment characters. Um, which they're not pleasant to look at, I'll admit, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Um, but again, I guess if you are catering your games to children at times, then obviously that's something that isn't going to be applied there. Which is funny because Oversoul is the first 13 and up game that Artix Entertainment has ever rated under that scale. So interesting to know. But anyways, so as we know, Nulgath is a character that represents one of the hardcore endgame farming factions within AQ Worlds. Besides that, however, he's never really played a key role in the story until what I mentioned previously, when your character strikes a contract to defeat death. And that's really it. However, when you interact with Nulgath, his quest, his farming quest, and the number of NPCs associated with him, they're really cryptic about a lot of things. Most of the quests you accept are contracts, and they require very different materials that make no sense for why you need them for this quest and why you're getting what you're getting by turning these things in. Great example is Void High Lord, Rowan Genium of Nulgath, Void Crystal A, Void Crystal B. Requires a lot of things that just don't make sense, but they do because it's Nulgath. And I think that's really interesting. And I'm sure that Miltonius wanted to keep everything, as cryptic as possible to kind of leave up to player interpretation. But I think a deep dive into Nulgath's lore would have been a lot better for the character. And something that I think now that Miltonius has been kicked off of the AV staff, they didn't just retire Nulgath Nation or any of that stuff. It's still there in the game and they use it every now and then, but they have an opportunity to give Nulgath more depth, the nation more depth. And I'm sure Miltonius wouldn't mind because that's just making his character better. But again, what do I know? Um, Obviously, it's very clear that Dage the Evil, is the favorite of Artix Entertainment. He's played multiple storylines within the game that are dedicated to him. But, Dage did not get his own game. Let's put it out there. Nulgath did as part of the, war. and that game was Oversoul. There will be a video on Oversoul, but um, so you can't just say that one is the favorite over the other. Obviously now, yes, because one got fired, but at least the other one had his own game. But based off of Nulgath and the nation's cryptic nature, there could have been plenty of side stories done based around the nation and the Archfiend that could be properly fleshed out. Again, Arch Portal is a great example of that. But again, Artix hates him. So all we're gonna get for now are Lay and Darkon, who I guess are the new hardcore factions in the game that are gonna be replacing those two, the new generation, as you could say. But that's fine. But I think now that Miltonis is gone, there's a lot of potential for the character, and I think he deserves a lot more praise. There's a lot more to the character that needs to be fleshed out and done, and let me do it. I think I'll do a pretty good job. Again, I'm joking, but think about it. So in conclusion, put some respect on my boy Nulgath. Also, Oversoul was robbed. Bring it back. Oversoul 2020. Thank you for watching.